You know that feeling when you finally decide to upgrade the power protection for your home office, only to realize the cheap UPS you picked up at the discount bin barely lasted a minute before the lights flickered and the router rebooted? I've seen that happen more times than I care to admit, and it's why I always pause at the line item stage and ask myself, am I really saving money, or am I just setting myself up for a bigger headache later? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The APC 1500VA Smart UPS with SmartConnect and a pre-installed network card promises to be that smarter buy, but does it actually deliver on the hype? Or does it fall into the same trap of overpromised specs and underdelivered reliability? Let's start with the category itself. A UPS in the 1500VA range is typically aimed at small business servers, professional workstations, or any critical equipment that can't afford an abrupt power loss. The key differentiators in this space are how the unit handles voltage fluctuations, the ease of remote management, and whether the battery runtime gives you enough breathing room to safely shut down or keep running during short outages. Many entry-level models try to cut corners on the Sinewave output, ending up with a simulated or stepped waveform that can confuse sensitive electronics like laser printers or high-end graphics cards. The APC SMT 1500RM2 UCNC, on the other hand, offers a true sine wave output, which means your equipment sees clean, smooth power just like the grid would provide under normal conditions. That alone can be a deal-breaker if you've ever heard the whining noise from a UPS that's struggling to fake a sine wave. Now, who should actually consider this unit? If you run a dedicated server room in a small office, host a home lab with multiple NAS drives, or even if you're a serious gamer who wants to protect a high-end PC, the 1000W continuous power rating gives you enough headroom for most setups. The pre-installed network management card is a nice touch for those who need to monitor power health across the network. You can log in via a web interface, set email alerts for battery events, and even integrate with third-party monitoring tools. For a remote worker who wants to keep the router, modem, and a single workstation online while an outage hits, this UPS can keep everything up for roughly 8 to 10 minutes under a typical load, which is usually sufficient to finish a document or safely shut down. On the flip side, if you're just looking to protect a single desktop or a couple of monitors in a bedroom, you're probably overspending. A smaller, 600VA unit would cover that scenario and cost significantly less. Also, the Rackmount form factor means you'll need a 2U space in a server rack or a dedicated shelf. If you don't already have a rack, you'll end up buying an extra piece of furniture or drilling a custom solution, which adds hidden cost and complexity. For those who prefer a plug-and-play tower design that sits on a desk, the tower version of this APC model might feel more natural, but keep in mind the rack mount version you're looking at is still a tower in shape, just with the option to slide it into a rack. That flexibility is useful if you anticipate growth, but it does mean you need to plan for that extra space now. Let's talk practicality. One of the strongest points is the automatic voltage regulation, AVR. I've seen a lot of users complain that their UPS fails during brownouts because the unit can't correct a dip in voltage and simply shuts down the load. The AVR in this APC model actively boosts low voltages and trims highs, which translates into fewer unnecessary battery drains. In a real-world scenario, say, a summer storm that drops the line voltage to 105V for a few minutes, the AVR steps in, maintains a stable output, and the battery remains untouched. That not only protects your hardware but also extends battery life because you're not cycling it as often. The remote monitoring feature, APC SmartConnect, is another practical benefit that goes beyond the usual connect via USB approach. Once you enable the feature, you can access real-time status from any device with a browser, set up SMS or email alerts, and even schedule automatic shutdown scripts. In my own setup, I configured a simple PowerShell script to gracefully shut down a Windows server the moment the UPS reported a battery level below 20%. The result was a clean shutdown without any data loss even after a 15-minute outage that would have otherwise forced a hard power loss. However, there are a couple of trade-offs that you need to be aware of. The battery runtime, while decent for its class, isn't infinite. If you run a full load of 1000 W, you'll only see about 3 to 4 minutes before the battery is depleted. That's enough to keep a router alive, but not enough for a multi-server environment that needs longer grace periods. To mitigate this, APC sells external battery modules that can be added later, but they represent an additional expense.